I've got one of the toughest tasks ahead, right? And so I'm going to make sure that I bring everything I've got, and that's what it's going to take to make it
Alex,
difficult.
enhorabuena por la victoria. Después de todo lo que pasó en el partido contra Lorenzo, su entrevista también después del partido, ¿cuáles son las sensaciones ahora después de ganar?
I just watched a video of you going to an Australian pub here in New York. That was fun, and I could tell just how much you enjoyed it as well. Good to see you enjoying yourself. And listen, you're so big on your
He hid
fitness.
this from the
enjoying
world.
it.
Alex de Minaur's secret $1 million promise that left everyone in tears. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Court Vision Plus, the only channel where we don't just cover the matches, we uncover the soul behind the serve. If you're new here, buckle up, because what you're about to hear is going to completely change the way you see one of tennis's most relentless competitors. We're talking about Alex de Minaur, the speed demon, the Aussie warrior who never backs down from a fight. But today, forget everything you think you know about his rankings, his prize money, and his epic 5-set battles. Today, we're diving into a story so deeply personal, so deliberately hidden from the public eye, that even his closest friends on the tour were left in the dark for years. This is the story of a secret project, a promise made in tears, and what used to be nothing more than a symbol of despair. Broken windows, crumbling walls, graffiti-covered hallways, a structure that developers wanted to demolish and forget. But inside those renovated walls today, children are laughing. Mothers who had lost all hope are sleeping peacefully for the first time in months. And the reason they can do that, the reason they have a roof over their heads and food on the table, is because of a promise Alex de Minaur made to his mother years ago. A promise he kept in complete silence while the world was busy debating his forehand grip and his chances at winning a Grand Slam. Let me set the stage for you. We live in an era where celebrity charity is everywhere. Athletes launch foundations, they post about their good deeds on Instagram, they invite camera crews to film them handing out turkeys at Thanksgiving. There's nothing inherently wrong with that. Visibility can inspire others to give. But what Alex de Minaur did was different. What he did was so quiet, so personal, and so intentionally private that when the details finally started leaking out through local Spanish news outlets and witnesses who couldn't stay silent anymore, the tennis world was left absolutely stunned. This wasn't a publicity stunt. This wasn't a tax deduction strategy. This was a young man in the prime of his career taking a massive chunk of his hard-earned millions and pouring it into a project that would never earn him a single ranking point, never get him a sponsorship deal, and never appear on a highlight reel. To understand why this story hits so hard, you need to understand where Alex de Minaur comes from. Born in Sydney, Australia, but raised largely in Spain, Alex has always been a bridge between two worlds. He carries an Australian passport and represents Australia with fierce pride in the Davis Cup, but his roots run deep in Spanish soil. His mother, Esther, is Spanish, and she raised him with values that are becoming increasingly rare in the world of professional sports. Humility. Gratitude. A bone-deep understanding that success isn't measured by what you accumulate, but by what you give back. Those values didn't come from a motivational speech or a self-help book. They came from watching his parents work tirelessly, from seeing the struggles of ordinary people, from growing up with a foot in two cultures and understanding that privilege is a responsibility, not a right. Fast forward to late 2023 and early 2024. Alex de Minaur is on fire. He's consistently ranked in the top 10 in the world. He's taking sets off Djokovic, he's pushing Alcaraz to the limit, he's becoming a household name in the tennis world. Prize money is rolling in. Sponsorship deals are stacking up. And then, in a move that seemed perfectly aligned with his rising star status, he announces the creation of the Alex de Minaur Foundation, a public initiative designed to help young Australian tennis players get access to coaching, equipment, and opportunities. The media loved it. Fans applauded it. It was the perfect narrative. Homegrown Aussie star gives back to the next generation. But what nobody knew, what Alex deliberately kept hidden, was that while everyone was focused on his tennis foundation, he was living a parallel life of charity that had nothing to do with backhands and everything to do with survival. Reports have now confirmed, through multiple independent sources including local Spanish journalists and community organizers in Valencia, that Alex de Minaur quietly purchased a Abandoned industrial complex on the outskirts of Valencia. This wasn't a small investment. This was a multi-million-dollar transaction involving a property that had been left to rot for years. Developers had written it off. The local government had no budget to restore it. It was a ghost building, a symbol of economic decline in a region that had been hit hard by financial crises. Alex looked at that building and saw something nobody else could see. He saw potential. He saw hope. He saw a promise he had made to his mother coming to life. Without announcing it to the press, without posting a single Instagram story, without even telling some of his fellow players, Alex committed a staggering amount of his personal fortune to buying the property outright. But he didn't stop there. Purchasing the building was just the beginning. What came next was even more extraordinary. He hired contractors, architects, and security experts to completely gut and rebuild the entire complex from the ground up. We're talking about structural reinforcements, modern plumbing, electrical systems, medical facilities, secure sleeping quarters, kitchens, playrooms for children, and counseling centers. This wasn't a cosmetic renovation. This was a complete transformation. And what was this building being transformed into? Not a luxury villa. Not a vacation retreat. Not a vanity project with his name plastered on the front. No. Alex de Minaur was building a state-of-the-art shelter and support center specifically for women and children fleeing domestic violence and homelessness. Let that sink in for a moment. While he was grinding through 3-hour matches under the Australian sun, while he was battling through injuries and tough losses, while he was doing post-match interviews and fulfilling sponsor obligations, Alex was simultaneously managing the construction of a sanctuary for some of the most vulnerable people in society. He was making sure that mothers who had been beaten, children who had been traumatized, families who had been sleeping in cars or on the streets would have a safe place to rebuild their lives. Why? Why would a young athlete at the absolute peak of his physical and professional powers take on such an emotionally and financially draining project? The answer, as it turns out, is rooted in a conversation that Alex had with his mother years ago, a conversation that has remained private until now. According to sources close to the family, Alex sat down with Esther during a particularly reflective moment early in his career and made her a promise. He told her, in words that have now become the emotional core of this entire story, that he didn't earn money to get rich. He earned it to change lives. He promised her that if he ever made it to the top, if he ever achieved the financial success that comes with being a world-class athlete, he wouldn't lose himself in the trappings of fame. He promised her that he would use his platform, his resources, and his privilege to become, in his own words, a kind-hearted person first and a tennis player second. That abandoned complex in Valencia is the physical manifestation of that promise. It's not just a building. It's a covenant between a son and his mother. It's a testament to the values Esther instilled in him. And it's a beacon of hope for people who had been forgotten by society. The fact that Alex chose Valencia, his mother's hometown, is no coincidence. This wasn't about finding the cheapest real estate or the most tax-efficient location. This was about honoring his mother's heritage, about planting seeds of kindness in the soil that raised her, about ensuring that the place she came from would be better because her son had the courage and the compassion to act. Now, here's where the story gets truly heart-wrenching. When the center finally opened its doors in early 2025, there was no grand opening ceremony. There were no politicians cutting ribbons, no camera crews from major networks, no social media campaign announcing the launch. It opened quietly, almost secretly, with the first families moving in under the cover of privacy and dignity. But Alex didn't just write a check and disappear. He flew to Valencia, squeezing the trip in between tournament obligations, and he personally visited the center. He walked the hallways he had funded. He saw the beds he had provided. And then, he did something that left everyone who witnessed it completely speechless. There was a group of children at the center, kids who had seen horrors no child should ever witness. Kids who had been living in cars, and shelters, and temporary housing with no sense of stability or safety. When Alex walked into the common area, these children had no idea they were meeting a world-famous athlete. To them, he was just a guy in a hoodie and jeans who seemed genuinely interested in their drawings and their stories. He sat on the floor with them. He didn't talk about tennis. He didn't talk about his ranking or his matches. He played games with them. He listened to them. He made them feel seen. And then, according to a staff member who was present and later shared the story with local media, Alex gathered the mothers and children together and said something that nobody in that room will ever forget. He looked them directly in the eyes, with no cameras rolling, no publicists present, and he said, "You are not lucky to be here. I am the lucky one. I am lucky that you allowed me to help. This isn't charity. This is family. And in this house, no one fights alone." Silence. Absolute silence filled the room. Here was a man who competes in front of tens of thousands of screaming fans, a man who has battled the best players in the world on the biggest stages, and in that moment, he wasn't a celebrity. He wasn't a tennis star. He was just a human being telling other human beings that their lives mattered, that their struggles were valid, and that as long as he had the ability to swing a racket and earn a paycheck, they would never have to worry about having a safe place to sleep again. The staff members were in tears. The mothers were overwhelmed. Some of the children, too young to fully understand the weight of the moment, just knew that this man made them feel safe. And Alex, according to witnesses, had tears streaming down his own face. He wasn't doing this for applause. He wasn't doing it for recognition. He was doing it because he had made a promise to his mother, and keeping that promise was more important to him than any trophy he could ever win. This revelation completely reframes how we should view Alex de Minaur as a competitor. Think about all those matches where he looked exhausted, where his legs were cramping, where every movement seemed to cost him everything he had, but he still refused to quit. We thought he was just a relentless competitor, a guy with an insane work ethic and a never-say-die attitude. And he is all of those things. But now we know there's a deeper layer. Every time he steps onto the court, he's not just playing for himself. He's playing for the heating bill at that shelter in Valencia. He's playing for the groceries that feed those kids. He's playing to fund the counselors who help traumatized women rebuild their sense of self-worth. He's playing to keep a promise. That Speed Demon nickname takes on a whole new meaning, doesn't it? He runs fast on the court because he knows time is precious. He knows that every match he wins, every check he earns, is another month of safety for families who have nowhere else to turn. He grinds harder than almost anyone on tour because he understands the value of every single dollar in a way that many of his wealthier, more privileged peers simply don't. He's not funding a yacht or a supercar collection. He's funding a lifeline. And let's talk about the timing of this revelation. It's now February 2025, and the tennis season is in full swing. The Australian Open just wrapped up, and Alex put in another gutsy performance, fighting through injuries and tough draws. But while commentators were analyzing his serve speed and his net play, Alex was thinking about Valencia. He was thinking about the families who were watching him on a donated TV in the common room of the shelter, cheering for him not because he's famous, but because he's the reason they're alive. That's the kind of pressure that would crush most people. But for Alex, it seems to fuel him. There's also a beautiful irony in the fact that Alex holds dual citizenship, Australian and Spanish. He's always been a bridge between two nations, two cultures, two identities. But with this project, he's become a bridge between despair and hope. He's taken the abandoned, both the physical building and the people society had written off, and given them a second chance. He's proven that you don't need to choose between being a fierce competitor and being a compassionate human being. You can be both. In fact, maybe being both makes you better at each. This story also shines a massive spotlight on the influence of his mother, Esther. We hear a lot about tennis parents, the overbearing dads, the pushy moms who live vicariously through their kids' careers. But Esther de Minaur raised a son who understands that the ultimate measure of success isn't how many titles you win, but how many lives you touch. By choosing to invest in Valencia, Alex isn't just helping strangers. He's honoring his mother's roots. He's ensuring that the place that shaped her values is now a place where those values can save lives. It's the ultimate tribute from a son to his mother, written not in words, circles, through social media, through news outlets in Spain and Australia. And Alex, true to form, has remained quiet. He hasn't issued a press release. He hasn't done a victory lap on Instagram. According to those close to him, he's actually uncomfortable with the attention. He didn't do this to be praised. He did it because it was the right thing to do. But the world doesn't care about his discomfort. The world needs to know about this. The world needs heroes like Alex de Minaur, people who use their success as a tool for good rather than just a ticket to a more luxurious lifestyle. And here's the thing that really gets me. This story is going to inspire other athletes. It has to. When young tennis players see what Alex has done, when they see that you can be a top 10 player and still find the time, the energy, and the resources to literally save lives, it's going to challenge them to think bigger. It's going to force them to ask themselves what they're playing for. Is it just for the next endorsement deal? Or is it for something that will outlast their career, something that will matter long after they've hit their last ball? The ripple effects of what Alex de Minaur has done in Valencia are going to be felt for generations. The children who are safe in that shelter today are going to grow up with a fundamentally different understanding of what kindness looks like. They're going to remember the man who saved them, not as a distant celebrity, but as someone who sat on the floor and played with them, who looked their mothers in the eye and said, "You are family." Those kids are going to grow up and pay it forward. They're going to help others because they were helped. And that cycle, that beautiful, unstoppable cycle of compassion, started because a tennis player from Australia with Spanish roots decided that his mother's values mattered more than his ego. I want you to think about something. The next time you see Alex de Minaur walk onto a court, whether it's at Wimbledon, the US Open, Roland Garros, or back home at the Australian Open, I want you to look past the scoreboard. Look at his eyes. Look at the way he fights for every point like it's life or death. Because for him, in a very real way, it is. Every point he wins is another day of safety for a child in Valencia. Every match he grinds through is another week of counseling for a mother who's trying to escape an abuser. Every paycheck he earns is another brick in the foundation of hope he's building. And you know what? That makes every cheer he gets, every standing ovation, every moment of applause, feel different. It makes it feel earned in a way that goes so far beyond tennis. Because Alex de Minaur isn't just fighting to win. He's fighting to prove that success and compassion aren't mutually exclusive. He's fighting to show the world that you can chase your dreams and still lift others up. He's fighting to honor a promise he made to his mother, a promise that has become his life's mission. So here's my question for you, the Court Vision Plus family. Does this change how you will watch Alex de Minaur's matches going forward? Because I'll tell you right now, it changes everything for me. Every time he chases down an impossible ball, I'm going to see a man who refuses to give up on anyone, on the court or off. Every time he pumps his fist after a big win, I'm going to know that he's not just celebrating for himself. He's celebrating for the families in Valencia who are cheering him on, who owe him their safety, their dignity, their future. This is the kind of story that restores your faith in humanity. In a world that often feels dominated by greed, by selfishness, by people who only care about their own success, Alex de Minaur is a reminder that there are still athletes who understand the weight of their privilege. There are still people who believe that to whom much is given, much is expected. And there are still young men who love their mothers enough to keep a promise, no matter how hard it gets. Before we wrap up, I need to tell you one more thing. The shelter in Valencia is now fully operational, but the need is endless. Alex has reportedly committed to funding the center indefinitely, but he can't do it alone. While he hasn't asked for public donations, local organizations in Valencia have set up ways for people to contribute to similar causes. If this story moved you, if you feel inspired by what Alex has done, I encourage you to find ways to support domestic violence shelters and homeless services in your own community. You don't have to be a millionaire tennis player to make a difference. Sometimes all it takes is showing up, listening, and caring. All right, Court Vision Plus family, if this story touched your heart the way it touched mine, I need you to smash that like button right now. Seriously, hit it. Stories like this need to be shared, they need to spread, they need to reach as many people as possible because the world needs more Alex de Minaurs and fewer people who only care about themselves. And if you haven't already subscribed to Court Vision Plus, what are you waiting for? We're not just here to talk about backhands and serve speeds. We're here to tell you the stories that Alex de Minaur right now. What would it be? Would you thank him? Would you tell him he's inspired you? Would you promise to follow his example? Let's flood the comments with love and support for a guy who deserves every bit of recognition, even if he's too humble to ask for it. And to Alex, if by some miracle you ever see this, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for showing us that greatness isn't just about winning matches. Thank you for proving that the biggest victories happen off the court. And thank you for keeping your promise to your mother. The world is better because of you. This is Court Vision Plus, reminding you to keep your eyes on the court, but keep your heart open to the stories that truly matter. Until next time, stay inspired, stay compassionate, and never forget that the greatest champions are the ones who fight for others.
Hi, I'm Alex de Minaur and I'm currently in Basel. What is the first thing that comes to mind? Because I thought he was hurting physically in the third and in the fourth, and he just let go.
A better player than the version you got tonight from Novak?
I don't think I have, if I'm completely honest.